All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something super important. What actually separates a simple little chatbot from a professional-grade AI agent that a real business can bet on? It's the difference between a cool science fair project and, a critical piece of your company's infrastructure.
So let's just dive right in. You've built a bot, and hey, it works. It's great when you ask it all the right questions in exactly the right order, what we all call the happy path. But the real world, it's messy. It's totally unpredictable. It's just full of curveballs. So the real question is, how do you level up from a bot that just works sometimes to an agent that's truly professional? And this is the journey we're really exploring today. We're going from what you could call a demo day darling, something that looks amazing in a controlled presentation, to a production workhorse. That means an agent that is resilient, that's trustworthy, and that can actually handle the chaos of reality. And to kind of guide us, we're going to be using the blueprint from NVIDIA's professional certification on Agentic AI.
So, level up number 1 is giving our agent a proper brain. Look, a professional agent isn't powered by one gigantic, super complex prompt. That's just way too brittle. Instead, it's about building a core engine for cognition, a system that can actually think its way through a problem.
So how does a professional agent actually think? Well, instead of just spitting out a response, it uses a cognitive loop, something like REACT. First, it reasons. It looks at the request and forms a plan. Then it acts on that plan. Maybe it calls an external API or queries a database. And finally, and this part is absolutely key, it verifies the result and adjusts its strategy. It's this constant loop that lets it handle really complex, multi-step tasks on the fly.
This brings us to a really crucial element: memory. I mean, think about it. If your agent is stateless, it's basically an amnesiac. It forgets what you were talking about just 2 sentences ago. And that creates a terrible, super frustrating user experience, and it makes it completely impossible to solve any problem that requires a little bit of context.
And this is why professional agents need both kinds of memory to really be effective. They use this fast, short-term memory, kind of like a mental scratch pad, just for the current conversation. But for true intelligence, they also need a durable, long-term memory to recall key facts and context across totally different sessions. It's that combination that ensures the agent is consistent, coherent, and, actually helpful over time.
Okay, let's move to our next level up and see how this all builds. An agent with a fantastic brain is frankly useless if it just shatters at the first sign of trouble. It needs armor. It needs to be engineered to withstand the inevitable failures of the real world, things like network glitches or broken APIs. And a key piece of that armor is a software pattern called a circuit breaker. The best way to think of it is as an intelligent, automated fuse for your agent's tools. So when a tool starts failing, the circuit breaker trips, and that prevents the agent from just hammering that failing service over and over and over again.
So let's paint a picture of a very common scenario. An external API that your agent really depends on is timing out. How does the amateur bot handle this versus the professional agent? What do they do?
Well, the amateur approach is to just turn the tool off completely, which, of course, just breaks the user's experience and doesn't really solve anything. The professional pattern is to implement that circuit breaker. It might try again a few times, but it uses something called exponential backoff, basically waiting a little longer between each attempt. If the API is still failing after a few tries, the breaker trips, and that prevents a whole system-wide meltdown.
Okay, so our agent is now smart and it's strong, but can we actually trust it? The next level up is all about building in a conscience, a really robust framework for safety, security, and compliance. And for any real business, this is completely non-negotiable.
Now, to build this conscience, developers often use an integrated stack of tools. In the NVIDIA ecosystem, for instance, this includes tools for performance and scaling like NIM and Triton Server. But for our focus here on safety, the absolute key component is NeMo guardrails. You should think of it as a programmable conscience that sits around the model, enforcing the rules of the road for what the agent can and can't say or do.
This is probably one of the most critical questions you can possibly ask. And just relying on the model's pre-training to have filtered out all the bad stuff, that is not a strategy. It's a massive liability. You need explicit controls. The professional solution is a layered defense. It starts with programmatic guardrails to filter inputs and outputs in real time. But you also have to have clear escalation paths for when a human needs to step in. And finally, you absolutely must have immutable audit trails to track every single decision, making sure you can always prove compliance.
So, what does this all really add up to? Well, it's so much more than just a collection of cool tools and patterns. The final level up is really about adopting a truly professional mindset when you build these systems.
And this professional mindset, it really boils down to 4 main pillars. First, you have to design for failure, not just cross your fingers and hope for the best. Second, you evaluate rigorously with automated benchmarks, not just a few random manual checks. Third, you prioritize trust from the very beginning. And finally, you monitor holistically. You track the agent's behavior, because simple system health metrics alone don't tell you if it's actually doing a good job.
You see, building a professional agent is a journey. It's about leveling up its intelligence with memory, its resilience with armor like circuit breakers, and its integrity with a real conscience for safety. The key takeaway here is this: a bot that only works in a demo isn't just incomplete, it's a liability. The real test isn't whether you can make it work, it's whether you can make it trustworthy enough to fail. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.